Hey, welcome back to Adam Radio. Hello to your Adam heads. Boy, it's a late night, and I'm getting very tired. Very, very tired. We're going to see what's on the short wave, and after that, I'm done. I'm going to go snuggle in my blankets. I'm going right to bed. So, let's see what we got. Stand by.
Flight sincerity from .com. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador was among the first to respond to the given request for international cooperation to face a difficult situation. Experts from Petróleos Mexicanos, firefighters, equipment, and supplies are already deployed in the disaster area, joining local and Venezuelan forces trying to fill the fire in one of the tank batteries of the main fuel distribution terminal of the Caribbean island. An aircraft of the Venezuelan airline Conviasa also landed at the Juan Alberto Gomez International Airport in the Varadero Resort and adjacent to the city. This is the second transfer aid planned with the government of President Nicolas Maduro. Exports, 14 tons of fire and 5 tons of chemical products used in the control of this type of fire were added to the important Venezuelan contribution. Cubans, Mexicans, and Venezuelans are working together in the fire area after reaching a consensus on how to deal with the incident. On Sunday morning, President Miguel Canel greeted an exchange with the representatives of the Mexican and Venezuelan cooperation, whose governments he thanked for their quick contribution. The President of the International Relations Commission of the Cuban Parliament, Yolanda Ferrer, sent on Twitter the expressions of support after the fire in Matanzas. Since the latest news broke, legislative bodies, parliamentarians, and personalities of the world have expressed solidarity with the Caribbean nations. Among the messages received is the one sent by Manuel Pineda, Mano, member of the European Parliament and Secretary of the International Area of the Congress Party of Spain. He sent his solidarity to the people of Matanzas and assured them that Cubans would overcome this complex event with their proven courage. Also, legislator Carlos Maria Lopez, president of the Chamber,
Gustavo Petro and Francia Marquez were sworn in this Sunday as President and Vice President of Colombia by the President of the Colombian Senate, Roy Barreras. The ceremony saw the participation of the Philharmonic Orchestra of Bogota, international guests, including presidents and high government officials, and 100,000 attendees, all in the historic Plaza de Bolívar. Following the investiture, President Gustavo Petro emphasized that during his administration, policies to protect life and the implementation of the peace agreement will be strengthened, where the central axis will be the fulfillment of the 1991 Constitution. The president described this new stage as a second opportunity for Colombia to put an end to violence and extreme poverty. Quote, "We are against all odds, against those who did not want to let go of power, but we did it. We made the impossible possible, traveling and listening with ideas, with love, with the heart and the brain. From today, we will begin to work so that more impossible things are possible in Colombia. If we could, we can." President Petro said, quote, "We have to end forever these 6 decades of conflict. We will comply with the peace agreement. We will follow to the letter the recommendations of the Truth Commission. We cannot continue in the country of death, and we have to build the country of life. This is the government of life, peace, and it will be remembered as such. Peace is possible if we unleash in the regions the social dialogue to meet in the midst of our differences." At the same time, the new head of state explained that to achieve peace, it is necessary to open channels of dialogue with all armed and unarmed factions.
Helicopters, all the equipment they used during that got exposed to so much radiation, they just had to abandon it right there.
Oh, yeah, teenage kids go into the administrative offices stealing computers, typewriters, paper, ink pens, file cabinets, and they all came down early cancers, and they all were dead like in 10, 15 years or sooner.
You know, was it worth it for a free computer?
We are badasses. We do not feel radiation. We will get to file cabinets and sell on the black market. It's revived vodka.
That whole thing was a horrible tragedy. And the sad part was it started with a test, a routine. They were testing the reactor, and I guess the test consisted of cranking up its output to full rated power and then, slowly turning it down. Well, something went wrong and the damn thing ran away and they lost the cooling and the rest is history.
That is a shame. How long ago was that now?
Heck, wasn't that back in the 80s? Yeah, probably later in the 80s, I guess. They had problems with their nuclear submarines at one point, they've had some problems. But our guys on nuclear submarines have to wear those radiation badges also. I saw a video on YouTube that talks about that. Right around the time the Soviet Union collapsed, it went from communism, or dumped communism.
Oh, come on.
Multiple cities looking after the events of the games. Away from them, Serena Williams won her first match in 14 months with a straight sets win over Spain's Nuria Parejas Diaz at the National Bank Open in Toronto. And she's back in action after losing in the first round at Wimbledon by her return. Everton have completed the signing of England centre-back Conor Cody on a season-long loan from Wolves. Everton were short of defenders after losing Ben Godfrey and Yerry Mina to injury in their opening match against Chelsea.
Isaac, Shannon, thank you very much indeed. Andrew Wood has the business news, and Andrew is talking about the price of oil, but not the stuff you put in your car, Andrew.
No, olive oil. It looks like it might be rising going between a fifth and a quarter over the next few months. That's the message from Asisio, which is one of the biggest companies in Spain that grows and exports olive oil. Let's talk now to Miguel Colmenero, who's the company's export manager. Welcome to the program, Miguel. Why is this? Why suddenly prices of olive oil going up? Is it due to what's going on in Ukraine? Is it global warming? What's the problem?
Hi, good morning from States. Well, it's a global problem. Obviously, the situation in Ukraine is having an impact on what we see in the olive oil prices today. But let me say first that the heat waves and the lack of rains, a drought that we are suffering in Spain during the last 18 months is becoming the main problem, the main issue, for the growth, olive oil growth in Spain. Keep in mind that 2/3 of the plantations are dry cultivation. Okay, so we depend on the rainforest. And the other third, which is like hardly 1 million hectares of olive trees, are irrigated cultivation. That irrigation depends on the reservoir, and due to the drought, to the lack of rains, we are suffering restrictions. Okay, so the irrigation is going probably to be banned if the reservoir hit 25% levels. Today we are like in 32, 33.
We're going short on olive oil?
That is the main concern
What
that we
the
have
hell?
at this moment. A couple of months before the harvest starts.
Do you blame this on global warming?
It's difficult to say, to be honest. That's probably a deeper question, and it deserves a much, much deeper analysis. We always have heat waves in Spain, to be honest. This is a hot place, especially during the summertime. And the olive trees,
I thought olive oil was from Italy, not Spain.
Okay, so,
That doesn't make any
the problem
sense.
is actually the lack of rain. If the global warming probably has to do with how not, but in short term, what we see is that
Very
every
kinky.
certain period.
Если не погода, то или на рыбы. А потому что это Господа, и она встречается в тех человеческих организаций, касаясь самой основы его существа. Именно по этой причине стоит оставаться в церкви, несмотря на скандалы и человеческие недостатки.
Вы слушали программу русской редакции Радио Ватикана. Слава Иисусу Христу! Лаудетур Иисус Христос!
At the tone, 5 hours, 22 minutes, coordinated universal time.
Okay, there's just a carrier there, that's it.
There's been Russia, as you know, Russia had some problems during the for military objectives in Ukraine, so Russia might be willing to use other countries' capabilities, such as this remote sensing satellite as well.
Right, and what is the Iranian Space Agency saying about what it intends to do with this satellite once it is operational?
So Iranian Space Agency actually emphasizes its civilian role, that they say the satellite will be operational for 5 years, and it will be used for agricultural, environmental purposes, also like for monitoring like water and nature resources, and also like monitoring like Iran's borders as well.
So no military role at all?
Yes, the border monitoring is the closest to the security. However, like the U.S. officials have said that Iran might use this because this satellite will be used for example, monitoring other countries' military assets and facilities in the Middle East region, like, I don't know, Israeli military facilities or other countries.
Okay. Thank you. Nico Carbachioni there from BBC Monitoring, where he is a specialist in Iran. You're with Newsday.
This is the BBC World Service, and here's Kevin Fong to tell you about a special programme recorded at the London Science Museum.
This is the engineer's future of cars. We're here with 3 engineers who are redefining the future of mobility worldwide. From the power of electricity and solar-powered cars to vehicles that drive all by themselves.
Maybe the best way to look at this is to compare the autonomous driving and the artificial intelligence to how good a human driver is. Because human drivers suck. Without changes to the law, fully autonomous vehicles are certainly not remotely okay.
It's not just electrifying this vehicle, but also changing the way that people might perceive what an eco-vehicle can be.
The Engineers, the Future of Cars, with Kevin Fong. Sunday at 14 GMT. Hello, you're with Newsday from the BBC World Service with Rob Young and Diane Coffey. Kenyans are voting in a close to court general election that will determine their next president. Peace talks are to take place between dozens of groups in Chad. And we'll find out why scientists say climate change is making many of the world's diseases more apparent. Our first news.
BBC News with Neil Nunes. The former U.S. President Donald Trump has said the FBI carried out a raid on his Florida home at Mar-a-Lago. He was not in Florida at the time. Mr. Trump said a large number of agents arrived at the compound with a search warrant. He said that while there, they accessed his safe. Taiwan's military has carried out a simulated live-fire artillery defense drill after days of large-scale Chinese military exercises off Taiwan's coast. Another drill is scheduled for Thursday. Kenyan voters are electing a new president to succeed Uhuru Kenyatta, whose second and final 5-year term draws to a close. Mr. Kenyatta is supporting his longtime political rival, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, against the Deputy President William Ruto. State prosecutors in Guatemala have charged a leading journalist, Jose Ruben Zamora, with money laundering and blackmail. Staff at El Periodico, the newspaper Mr. Zamora founded, said he was being persecuted for their previous reporting on the president, Alejandro Yamatei, and the Attorney General, Consuelo Porras, who's been named by the U.S. for significant corruption. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion Leandro Nu has been buried in Sao Paulo in an emotional ceremony, a day after being shot in the head by an off-duty police officer. Most of his friends attended the funeral wearing kimonos as a way of paying tribute to one of the greatest jiu-jitsu fighters in history. Australia's National Science Agency says its researchers have identified nearly 150 new species. They include the first known millipedes with more than 1,000 legs, discovered 60 meters underground. They are fish, plants, wasps, and jumping spiders, all new to science. BBC World News.
Thanks for that update, Neil. Hello, welcome to Newsday with Rob and James. Coming up, we'll head to Kenya shortly. Millions voting in the country's general elections. We'll hear about a peace agreement in Chad and what it could mean for the country. We'll have a full bulletin of sport with Isaac too. And you can send us your thoughts. Our text number is +44 77 86 20 50 85. Kenyans are voting in a national election this morning after a campaign season marked by a shift in ethnic alliances and big issues including the rising cost of living and high unemployment. The two frontrunners are the 77-year-old Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister, and 55-year-old current Deputy President William Ruto. It is a hotly contested race. We're joined now by the BBC's Emmanuel Agunza from Eldoret, the hometown of one of those contenders, William Ruto. Welcome to the programme, Emmanuel. Just describe Eldoret this morning, the atmosphere there, and what it's like at the polling station near where you are.
Good morning from very chilly Kosuke. This is just on the outskirts of Eldoret town, and I'm at a polling station, which is the hometown of Deputy President William Ruto. Quite chilly in the morning, but everyone has really braved the cold, and still a long queue here. The Deputy President was the first one to cast his vote from 6 a.m. when the polling station started. He was here very confident together with his wife, and immediately after he told me that he was confident of a win, and that he would accept the outcome of the vote. But people here are really enthusiastic, came out quite early. Some of them came out as early as 5 a.m. and they had been waiting for the polling stations to begin. And that's sort of like the larger picture of the polling stations across this area.
Fascinating. People queuing up an hour before the polls opened.
Yes, indeed. Partly it's because the presidential candidate, Deputy President William Ruto, comes from this area. Many people, this is considered his stronghold, and during the campaign trail, he's been asking people to come out from very early in the morning to cast their vote, and many people do seem to have heeded that call despite the chilly weather here.
Right, so turnout's looking pretty healthy then.
Yes, the turnout is really great. The Electoral Commission from early morning say that they were really impressed by the huge numbers of people who showed up even way before the polling started. But it's still quite early in the day. Some people might want to go to their farms and then come and cast their votes later. We do expect that the numbers will increase throughout the day, as we've seen the lines and the queues at polling stations getting longer and longer.
And how long are the polls open for today?
Well, the polls will be closing at 5 p.m. Apart from if there were delays in the opening of the polling stations across this huge county. So far, we've not had any reports about the polling stations opening late. They were a bit heated here and there in terms of the electronic kit for biometric identification, not starting quick enough, but those have been quickly sorted out, and the queues do seem to be moving very smoothly and quickly enough. Some of the people who came here from very early morning when I was here have already cast their vote and have left, and seem quite satisfied with the way the process is going.
Right, because there was some concern in the days leading up to the polls about the use of manual voter lists versus the electronic system. There were a couple of hitches, but they've all been ironed out, have they?
Well, in this particular county where those issues don't seem to have been very prevalent, the identification process was that even prior to the election, the voter register had been pinned on the notice board of the polling stations where people could come and check whether their names were there. People also had an option of sending a short message where they will get their verification of the exact polling station where they will be voting and whether their details were okay. And so far, in some of the places where I've been, we've not really witnessed that, and the Electoral Commission is very confident that if there are big features where a voter doesn't appear, that they can resort to a different set of method to identify, to make sure that everyone who is a registered voter does get the opportunity to cast their vote.
Okay, Emmanuel Agunza, thank you.
Yeah, we were hearing from Mercy Juma in Nairobi a little bit earlier on about some of the delays there. Our colleague Dickens Olewe is also in the capital, Nairobi, and describes quite some chaotic scenes with the officials trying to contain people who are desperate to vote, people throwing ballot box around, though order has been restored in that particular polling station. There's plenty more on the BBC website, actually, the Africa page. There's lots of updates in real time about what's going on in this key vote. Let's head to the other side of Kenya, to the coast, to Mombasa, where Abubakar Famal, our colleague, is there. We're going to talk about sort of mix-up in the ballots a little bit later, but just to start with, Abubakar, what's it like where you are, in the polling station where you are?
Actually, I'm at one Mvita polling station here. It's in the center of the city, Mombasa. And so far, what I've just noticed here since I came is that until now, voting has not started in this center. People have been complaining. They've been here since dawn, some of them as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. But until now, they have not been able, to cast their vote. Now that I see some officials from the Electoral Commission coming in with the materials, in order to start setting them up here. So this is a significant delay. I can say the voting was supposed to start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and now it's almost 3 hours after. So this is a big delay and a big disappointment to some of these people.
How are people reacting? Is there frustration? Are people resigned to it?
People are really frustrated, actually. They feel disappointed because, as I mentioned, they came very early in the morning. Some of them, 3 hours before the voting time. And some of them have also expressed their concern that because some have returned home, so the chances are very high that the turnout may not be as big as it was, before.
Okay. Also, Mombasa is one of a couple of areas where people are not going to be able to vote in the election for governor because of a mix-up for the printing in ballot papers. Is that right?
Indeed, that's absolutely true. And this, including yesterday during the verification process. And that's when they came to realize that the ballot papers for the governor of Mombasa were not around. And those who are around were the ones, from another county, the nearby county, Kilifi. And this led to the postponement of the governor poll until, at least for the next 2 weeks. And we had some reactions, from the locals here regarding the postponement. Maybe we should just hear some of them here.
I kind of feel like the IBC was not very ready for this. So it's an inconvenience for very many people. We have to close shops, we have to take a hit to not to exercise our right to vote. And the fact that they did not prepare themselves early enough for this shows a high level of incompetence on their side.
IBC was not ready. That's what I can say. We will go vote for president, MPs, women rep, and the rest. But governor, we will wait.
Some frustrated voters, or would-be voters, I suppose, at least in terms of the gubernatorial, the governorship elections there. In general, have you got a sense across the country about whether the sorts of delays you're talking about at your particular polling station have been seen elsewhere?
Actually, this is the second polling station that I've just, visited this morning. And the first polling station, there was a delay, but of half an hour, just a 30 minutes delay. But elsewhere, I've not, gotten some further details. But I will spend, almost the rest of my day moving around to other polling centers, and then I will be able to have, some enough information probably later.
Yeah, Abubakar Famal, Mombasa there, highlighting the fact that there will be full coverage of these vital elections in Kenya throughout Newsday, of course, and throughout the day on the BBC World Service.
The United States has imposed sanctions on a popular cryptocurrency service that allows users to mask their transactions. The US Treasury accuses Tornado Cash of laundering more than $7 billion of virtual currency since its creation 3 years ago. Washington, D.C. says that at least $450 million of that was stolen by the Lazarus Group.
Nice.
Hackers that it says are backed by the North Korean government. Both Washington and Seoul have accused North Korea of using...
There they go, blaming the Oriental people again. What did they do to everybody? Nothing. It's the president, our president of the United States, that's starting crap.
Names of actors that have been identified as participating...
Mr. Brandon Biden, he's the one that's scandaling money, not other countries.
Specifically by the U.S. government, right? So being the dominant economic
Leave Japan alone, China, Korea, whatever. Leave them alone.
That allows us to stop the flow of money to individuals or entities that we designate as having some specialized bad guy status in the world, right?
Yeah,
so when we're
right.
talking about tornado cash, we're specifically referring to the 40% or so of illicit funds, right? Of all of the funds that are passed through this mixer, this money laundering machine, right? A very advanced money laundering system, which is what these sets of smart contracts are. When we're talking about a decentralized protocol, we're talking about a system that anyone can work with and anyone can plug into. And so the sanctions list is essentially a way for the U.S. government to say we shouldn't be doing business with anyone who is using these tools. And we want to very broadly apply.
Yeah, what about FEMA hurricane funds? I'm in Florida. What about me?
Americans can no longer access tornado cash.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, we're looking at more than 435.
Oh, but no, Biden won't do that.
That are locked in these contracts today, and so there have been various discussions around the internet today, and rumors flying around about, what are the folks who have money locked into these contracts going to do? Are they going to attempt to withdraw their funds in a haste? Because it is designated illegal as of today for any U.S. person to interact with these contracts. But it is a serious risk to privacy, especially for those who want to use cryptocurrency for illicit purposes, right? And it's important to say that most crypto transactions are legitimate in nature. But what we're looking at with Tornado Cash is the government of North Korea essentially supporting state-sanctioned hackers. And, the cybersecurity has been dealing with this specific group.
They have typhoons and stuff, and tsunamis. They have tornadoes over there? I never heard of it.
We have to try to figure out how to stop the pain. 20% of the actors online are causing 80% of the pain. And so I think what the U.S. government is trying to do here is, one, shut down these transactions because they're funding a government that has no other way to be funded, and so this is their way to essentially evade global sanctions against their own government for the actions that they've taken and the way they've isolated themselves from the international community.
And tell me about what North Korea's government is accused of doing through Tornado Cash.
Well, generally speaking, the Treasury Department is alleging that individuals and groups have used this mixer to launder more than $7 billion worth of cryptocurrency just since 2019. And we're talking about...
Well, anyways, guys, girls, whatever. I had enough listening to that. That was the BBC World News, and I've had enough listening to the United States where I'm living is being destroyed by an idiot in the house. White House. Whatever. Anyways, hope everybody has a good night, and I'm gonna go sleep tight. And that's that. So, I hope everybody had a good day and whatever. I'm just so fed up with this world. It's just corrupted way too much. You can always thank Brando for that. Yep.